You know that feeling, right? You're trying to keep up with info online, maybe specific data points,
Yeah.
and it feels like drowning in browser tabs,
Yeah.
endless copy pasting,
Mm-hmm.
and the minute you've got it, it's probably already out of date.
Exactly.
Now imagine doing that every single day for certain websites.
Mm,
It's just painful, really tedious manual work.
it really is.
And yeah, there are tools out there, but the generic ones, they often feel clumsy,
Uh-huh.
not quite right for what you specifically need.
They're just not tailored.
So how do you build something smarter, something automated that goes exactly where you need it, grabs just the data you want, and drops it neatly into Excel every day?
Well, that's the big question we're tackling today.
Right. This deep dive is all about custom AI agents, specifically built for that web scraping and data export task.
And we're going to use the sources you share to really break down what these agents are. Why making them custom is so much better than manual work or those generic tools.
And how they actually work under the hood.
Precisely. We've got one source that gives us a good foundation, explains the concepts, the daily scraping, the export side.
Okay.
And then this second source, which is fascinating, provides a really concrete example. Someone actually built an AI travel agent doing this kind of complex stuff. It gives us a real-world look.
So think of this as like a personalized walkthrough for you. We're aiming to cut through the noise in these sources, pull out the key insights, the aha moments, so you get the picture without feeling buried in detail.
Yeah, get you informed without the overwhelm.
All right, let's dig in.
Okay, so first things first. What is a custom AI agent, specifically in this context of getting web data?
Yep. What are we actually talking about?
The sources define it as, well, a software program, obviously, but one with AI baked in. The key thing is that it's autonomous.
Meaning it runs itself?
Largely, yes. It can operate, make decisions based on rules or logic, adapt a bit, all without constant human handholding. The most important word here for our discussion is custom or tailored.
Right, that tailored aspect seems critical. It's not just any scraper. It's built for your exact task.
Exactly. Your workflow, the specific data you need, the particular websites you're interested in, that focus is what makes it efficient and accurate.
Okay.
And the two main jobs these sources highlight for these agents are that daily web scraping and then getting the data out, usually into something like Excel.
Makes sense.
So daily web scraping here means automating that whole process. Visiting the sites, figuring out their structure, pulling out the specific info you want, and doing it reliably day after day.
It's got to be consistent.
Totally. And it needs to handle the messiness of the real web, right? Different layouts, dynamic content that, pops up after the page loads.
Oh yeah, that stuff.
Identifying what's actually relevant, noticing if the site changes, handling errors so the whole thing doesn't just crash. It's about keeping that data stream reliable and fresh.
So way more than just downloading a page. It's like having a smart assistant do the browsing and extracting.
Precisely. And once it has the data, you need to make it usable.
Which brings us to the Excel export part.
Exactly. The source describes this as the agent taking that raw, maybe messy, scraped data, cleaning it up, organizing it into, neat rows and columns.
Headers, maybe?
Yeah, adding headers, making sense of it, and then saving it as an actual spreadsheet file, like XLSX or CSV. It turns raw web stuff into something you can immediately work with.
Filter, analyze, feed into other tools.
Right. The process they outline is logical, too. First, data selection, which bits go into the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Then format conversion, mapping that data to the right columns, maybe setting data types. Then the agent does the file generation, actually creating the file. Often there's a download initialization step, maybe a data integrity check to ensure it looks right.
Good idea.
And finally, you can save or share it. Pretty straightforward flow.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We get what they are and what they do, smart scraping, useful export. But, the big question is why? Why go custom? There are tons of off-the-shelf scrapers, or you could just do it by hand if it's not too much.
Ah, yes. Why bother with custom? And this is where the sources really highlight the power.
This is the interesting part.
It is, because building custom unlocks capabilities you just don't get otherwise. The sources contrast it really clearly.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, tailored intelligence. A generic tool follows basic rules. A custom agent understands your specific world. It can get industry jargon, the context of the data, apply your business rules. It's like an expert assistant versus just a robot following simple commands.
So the data quality is inherently better because it understands what it's looking for.
Exactly. It's not just text, it's meaningful information in your context. Then there's adaptive learning. Because they use AI, they can potentially learn.
How so?
Well, if a site layout changes a bit, a smart agent might adapt its parsing based on past experience, or you can retrain it with feedback. Manual methods mean you have to figure it out and redo it. Off-the-shelf tools just break until the vendor maybe fixes them.
Right, the custom one can evolve.
Yes. And scalability and automation. This is huge. Need data from thousands of pages daily. A custom agent can be designed for that scale. It runs 247.
Try doing that manually.
Impossible. And generic tools often have usage caps or performance limits. Custom automation frees up people to analyze, not just collect.
Yeah, that's a massive benefit, shifting focus from grunt work to actual insight.
Precisely. And related to that is data quality and contextual understanding. Because it's tailored, it can be smarter about cleaning data, filtering out irrelevant noise, understanding relationships between data points.
Disambiguating things.
Yeah, like if the same word means different things on different parts of a site. Generic tools applying blunt rules often pull in junk.
Okay, makes sense.
Also, integration with existing systems, much smoother. You build the connectors you need, APIs, talking to your databases, your CRM, whatever. It fits right in. Generic tools often have limited export or integration options.
They can be quite rigid.
Very. And finally, don't forget enhanced security and compliance. If you're dealing with sensitive info, you control the security protocols in a custom build. Access control, audit logs. You build it to meet your needs. You can't always guarantee that with third-party tools.
That's a really strong set of advantages.
Yeah.
It connects back to that quote from the AI travel agent creator in the other source.
Yeah, the one about LLMs.
Right. That LLMs are good, but they get even better and more powerful when you provide them with the correct data and context and useful tools. That really sums up the custom approach, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's that combination, the AI smarts plus the specific relevant data and the right tailored tools for the job. That's the magic.
So, okay, we see why custom is powerful. How are these things actually put together? What are the building blocks?
Good question. The sources give us a look inside. A typical custom AI scraper agent has several key parts working together.
Like an engine.
Sort of, yeah. You've got a crawler module. Think of it as the navigator. It finds the pages, fetches the raw HTML or content. Then a parser engine. This takes the raw stuff and makes sense of the structure, extracts the useful sections, maybe from HTML or JSON.
Got it.
Next, the data extraction logic. This is the core intelligence about what data to grab and how. It could use rules, patterns, maybe even NLP to understand text.
Right, the specific instruction.
Exactly. And crucially, an AI decision layer. This adds that dynamic intelligence, adapting to changes, handling missing data, maybe prioritizing certain info. This is where the learning and improvement happen.
The smart part.
Definitely. You also need a scheduler and queue system manages when tasks run, keeps them on schedule, avoids hammering websites too hard.
Important for being a good web citizen?
Very. And finally, a data cleaning and validation module. This cleans up the extracted data, removes duplicates, checks for errors, ensures it's complete and correct. Quality control.
That's quite a few moving parts.
It is. It's a specialized system.
In that AI travel agent example, it sounds like it used these components, but maybe added even more sophistication.
Oh, absolutely. The architecture they showed was really interesting. It starts with the user's request, right? Like, find flights to Paris.
Okay.
That goes into an LLM parsing step. The large language model figures out the intent and pulls out the key details, destination, Paris, dates, etc., into structured data.
Turns natural language into something the machine understands.
Exactly. Then the system kicks off. Parallel searches, looking for flights and hotels at the same time.
Efficient.
The results feed into a recommender LLM. This uses memory context, what you've asked before, and works with specialized assistant agents, like one focused on travel, one on research, to craft the final suggestions.
Wow. And how do they handle the actual data gathering? Especially flights, which are notoriously hard to scrape.
Right. That was maybe the most fascinating part. For Google Flight scraping, they didn't just hit the site, it was multi-layered.
How so?
They used manual browser automation, think Playwright, to fill in the search forms accurately, just like a person would.
Okay, so simulating clicks and typing.
Yes, but here's the clever bit. They didn't run that automation from their own server. They connected it to a remote scraping browser service.
Like a proxy network.
Exactly, like Bright Data's service. This routes the request through residential or mobile IPs, making it look like a real user and bypassing blocks, GAPT-CHAs.
Ah, so the automation fills the form, but the request looks like it's coming from a regular person somewhere else.
Precisely. And then, layered on top of that, they used an AI automated browser, something like Browserless, which can be guided by an LLM, to intelligently navigate and scrape the results page that the Playwright automation generated via the proxy network.
Good grief. That's a chain. Automation tool talks to proxy browser service, talks to AI browser to finally get the data.
It's complex, but it shows the lengths needed for reliable data from tough targets like flight sites.
Incredible. What about the hotel data? Was that as complex?
No, much simpler, thankfully. For hotel data, they used an API, specifically Bright Data's Search Engine Results API.
So no scraping needed there.
Nope. The API just delivers the search results already parsed and structured. It really highlights that if a good API exists, that's often the way to go. Much less hassle.
Definitely good to know. And the research assistant, you mentioned that.
Yeah, that was cool too. Described as a tool calling agent. It's an LLM-powered agent that has access to different tools and decides which one is best for the query.
Like a dispatcher.
Kind of. If you ask for restaurant recommendations, it might use a tool connected to a large vectorized database.
Vectorized database. What's that about?
Okay, so imagine instead of just storing text about millions of restaurants, you convert that information into mathematical representations vectors. Points in space, essentially.
All right.
This database, like the example using Bright Data's Google Maps set in ChromaDB, lets the agent do super fast similarity searches. It can find restaurants like the one you described or near a certain location, not just based on keywords, but on semantic meaning.
So it's finding conceptually similar places, not just text matches.
Exactly. Very powerful for recommendations on huge data sets. And the research assistant also had a general search tool, maybe using DuckDuckGo via LangChain for more general web lookups.
Man, that travel agent architecture really pulls together everything complex, scraping, APIs, LLMs for understanding and recommending these specialized vector databases.
It's a fantastic example of combining techniques.
And you mentioned the code structure, a back-end API managing things, a front-end for the user. That integration piece ties it all together.
Absolutely. It shows how these aren't just isolated scripts, but integrated systems.
Okay, so for someone listening thinking, wow, a custom agent could really solve a problem for me, how do they realistically get started? It sounds potentially daunting.
It can seem that way, but the sources break it down into manageable steps. First, define your objective. Be crystal clear on the exact problem you're solving.
Specific.
Very. Then, identify data sources. Where does the info live? Which websites or APIs? Next, choose the right technology stack. What languages, libraries, tools fit the job and your team's expertise?
Match the tools to the task.
Right. Then you develop the core logic and architecture. Plan out how it will work. Navigate, extract, process, export. If you're using machine learning, you'll need to train and fine-tune the models.
Okay.
And critically, test for accuracy and reliability. Test constantly to make sure it's pulling the right data consistently.
Testing sounds crucial. And any tips from the sources for making the process smoother, less overwhelming?
Yeah, some really practical ones came up. Start with a clear plan. Goals, scope, requirements, map it out first.
Don't just dive in coding.
Definitely not. Choose the right point. Tools, technologies don't overcomplicate if you don't need to. Match it to your needs and skills. A big one is focus on modular design.
Meaning?
Build it in independent pieces. The crawler, the parser, the exporter makes it easier to develop, test, and update parts without breaking the whole thing.
Ah, like building with Lego bricks.
Kind of, yeah. Also, prioritize data quality from day one. Garbage in, garbage out, always true here. Automate where possible, especially repetitive setup or testing tasks. And again, test early and often. Manual checks, automated tests catch issues before they become big problems.
Those seem like solid principles for any software project, really. But especially important here given the potential fragility of web scraping.
Absolutely. So if we bring this all together, the core benefits of using these custom AI agents, tying back to your need for efficient, thorough knowledge.
Yeah, what's the payoff?
It's increased efficiency automating that manual drudgery. Greater accuracy because it's tailored and understands the context better. Scalability, handling more data than humans ever could.
Adapting too, right?
It says adaptability to unique requirements. It fits your process. Better integration into your existing systems. And that potential for continuous learning and improvement over time.
It really does paint a picture of something far more powerful than just a basic script. It's about building an intelligent system, leveraging AI, specific tools, structured data, a smart architecture to tackle complex data tasks.
Exactly. It's about turning that overwhelming flood of web data into a manageable, valuable stream of information tailored just for you.
So thinking about the challenges you face, the listener, in gathering info or wrangling data, based on our discussion, what part of this custom AI agent idea resonates most? Is it the efficiency, the accuracy, the ability to handle complexity?
Yeah, what's the biggest potential benefit you see for cutting through the noise in your world?
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on these examples. We saw an agent handle complex travel planning, combining tricky flight scraping APIs, vectorized databases. If you can build that, what other complex data-heavy tasks could you imagine automating? Think about tracking competitor prices, like the sources mentioned, or monitoring industry news or research. What critical, repetitive data wrangling could a custom combination of these tools, APIs, and AI solve for you? Lots to think about there.